keep a smile on my face. This world is a terrifying place. So I try, yes I try, yes I try, yes I try to keep a smile on my face. I don't wanna go there, so I'm worrying about the check and the letter that I put in the box where they get the mail. This world is a terrifying place. So I try, yes I try, yes I try, yes I try to keep a smile on my face. This world is a terrifying place. Try, yes, try, yes, try, yes, try to keep a smile on my face. But I'm worried about the driver of the car. Yes, I'm worried about the driver of the car. Yes, I'm worried about the driver of the car. How you guys doing? Good evening. Hey Pigeon. Hey Flannel Farms. Hey AFJ3RD. Hey Karen, Love Cat, Dan, and other Dan. Off Kilter Homestead. Bonries, why not? Why not? Carla. Terrifying place. Trader Monkey. Alan. Trump 1, Shaner S87, enjoy being. I didn't say that. Jesus, Elizabeth. Alan says the musicless last stream put me off kilter. Yeah, I didn't really have anything to play. I guess I could have turned around and played the piano or something. I mean, it's kind of weird. You know, you got the piano behind me. You know, and. It's kind of awkward. It's weird. Hey Paul and Betty, Carolyn, Mama Woods, how to garden, Son 1 of Liberty, calories with my vodka tonics and some music. Yes. I am on the zero carb diet right now, or as close to zero as I can get it, because I'm trying to define muscle and eliminate the remaining fat that never wants to leave my middle. There is always just a little bit there, and it drives me nuts. And so I feel like if I go like zero, totally keto burning, so I'm like breathing out acetone, that will probably do it. So I might do that for a month or so. So, you know, we went out today to do some gardening. I am working on editing a book right now, and I said, okay, I'm gonna edit this book until 5 o'clock. Then we'll go out as a family and we'll do some gardening. So we go out, and after about 20 minutes, the sky grows dark, and at about 25 to 30 minutes, it starts pouring, and that's it. Yeah, there you go. So this song that I'm working on, yeah, eat a piece of bread, wham, you get fat again. Christopher says 0 carb for over a year. Good for you. How's it affected you? Vonnery says, how long do stone fruit seeds need to be kept in the refrigerator? They usually start germinating at 3 to 5 months, usually at 3 to 4. Around 3 months or so, they usually start germinating. So anyhow, yeah, we are trying to get our fall crops in, but you know, we had visitors, and we're busy, and we've had inclement weather and all kinds of other stuff. You know how it is, life. It also is slower to get the gardening done when we're trying to do like epic film reel shots, you know. So like all these setup shots, right? So I need to just drag my row marker across and mark out my rows. So action, you know, I start pulling it, get partway across. Okay, wait. Rachel goes, sets up another shot. 3 to 5 minutes later, the other shot is there, and I go the rest of the way. Now, so an operation that should have been done in 30 seconds has now taken 10 minutes to set up and film, and you know, it is what it is. We have to do some work in between the YouTube videos, because the YouTube videos actually do consume a lot of time to put together, and I have been trying to make them more cinematic as we are preparing. I'm going to just make my announcement now. Pardon me. I'm slightly allergic to something, I think. This fall, Baphemus 3 is coming out on Halloween. Baphemus 3, Dawn of the Baphemus, will be out on Halloween, and it will be amazing. We have been practicing our cinematography. You know, people, wow, your videos look so good. Like, you're doing all these cool shots. The cinematography's really gotten better. Yes, it's all so we can do a terrifying film about a plastic dinosaur that kills people. That's why I'm putting all this. It's not so I can make money from ad revenue or do better gardening presentations or build the YouTube channel. No, it is all about force shortening plastic dinosaurs. We're working on it. It's going to happen. The tagline for the film is, "Don't call up what you can't put down." If you don't have the chills already, man, your horror indicator is broken. So, yes. Will there be explosions? You'll have to wait and see. We've been trying to film the trailer, but we were waiting for the cult robes to arrive. The cult robes are at a friend's house, and they've been tied up. So obviously, you know. So we better probably get into the actual content of the stream. I love yeah. Oh, yeah, you guys are scared. April's scared. Thank you, April. I appreciate the vote of confidence. All right, so let's we're gonna start the actual content. We called up a monster because we wanted him to defend the earth. But instead he ate us one by one. He's got great big teeth. He's a great big beast, and we're running away. Running away. Yeah. Okay, actual content starts right here. Thank you, Karen, for the super chat. Much appreciated. And also Trader Monkey, thank you very much. I appreciate the super chat. Very kind of you. We'll give gardening advice for tips. All right, so your pumpkins got flooded. Sabrina's pumpkins got flooded. All right, actual content right here. Actual content starts here. Okay, that's enough. All right. So you want some food in the ground? You want a little bit of confidence? You want some long-term calories? I had a friend of mine say, you ever look into that long-term food storage stuff? You know those like instant foods where you can get those like instant meals? They're kind of like MREs. And then he goes, yeah, and it's like, they're only like $4 a piece. Or like $4 a piece, okay. So for my family to eat for a day on these instant meals, $4 a piece, 11 people eating. I'm going to have to get out my scientific calculator. 4 times 11 equals 44 times 3 equals 132 times 7 days a week. $924 a week to feed them. Yeah, that's not going to happen. I mean, there's nothing wrong with long-term storable food. But, I wouldn't even eat the stuff that's in those things. Anyways, have you guys ever had MREs? Meals refusing to exit? MREs are not great. Some of them are tolerable. Don't eat the candies. But it's not great food for you long-term, nutritionally, or anything else. We eat way better than average. For all of you ladies who regularly ask me about how I maintain my incredible physique and my perfect skin, the answer is clean living. I'm sorry, nobody ever asks me that. So, sorry, I cracked myself up. Food in the ground, all right? So, the stuff that we eat, let's look at what we eat regularly. For breakfast, we often have scrambled eggs, and the kids often have yogurt or cottage cheese with various nuts. So, like walnuts, Brazil nuts, sunflower nuts, pumpkin seeds. We usually have some fruit, sometimes with peanut butter, sometimes not. Peanut butter is not the greatest thing for you to eat in the world, but it's decent protein. And usually Rachel has been making bone broth, so everybody gets a cup of bone broth with breakfast as well, and they can have scrambled eggs if they like, and she usually makes a plate of bacon. The scrambled eggs also have kelp meal in them, and sometimes they are with sautéed vegetables from the garden, depending on what we have. I like sautéed hot peppers in my scrambled eggs, but that's too much for the kids, so if I want those, I have to make them myself, like on the side. And so usually I don't bother. Sometimes we have bananas with breakfast, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we have dried fruit. I wish that we had more fruit that we could, put into production. When the pears were on the trees, we had a lot of pears. I would love to have figs for breakfast. That would be fantastic. But, and then we drink water, and we drink coffee with either half and half or heavy cream in it, if they want cream. Some of the kids drink coffee. The rule in our house is that if you're 13 or older, you can have a little coffee. Though occasionally the younger kids will take sips off of my coffee. But trust me, you don't really want to give a 2 or 3 year old coffee. It's just not. It's not great, So anyhow, we have good food coming through the house. When it comes to lunch, we've often got vegetables from the garden. If we have beans, we usually soak them overnight, or if we have oatmeal for breakfast, the oatmeal gets soaked for 24 hours, and we put a little bit of yogurt or kombucha in it. So, so the idea is that you want to break down the phytotoxins, the lectins. You want to have that stuff a little bit pre-digested so it doesn't mess with your digestion very much. Makes you healthy. And we have a lot of good fat. So we cook with ghee, we cook with lard, like real lard, coconut oil, and then we use olive oil to make our own mayonnaise, and that way we don't have to have soybean oil. And generally we have pork chops or beef of some sort pretty regularly, and chicken. Rachel likes to roast entire chickens. Now on the meat side of things, we can't really afford the good meat, like the grass-fed and all that fancy stuff. And we don't even have a really good local source for it, so we're kind of stuck eating so-so meat. But we are working on that. I am going to be building another enclosure for chickens so we could raise our own meat birds, which will be good. And we also have some friends that raise cows, and we're hoping to get some of that, which would be good. So, Pastor Don says, my son has been drinking coffee since he was 2. He now roasts coffee for a living. Yes, my kids all look like tall sticks. They are skinny. I mean, my being thin runs in our family. Now, we do have relatives that are obese. Rachel has some relatives that are obese, and I have some relatives that are obese. So it's not that the family is immune to it, but we try to avoid eating garbage. And so my kids are probably normal by the standards of the 1940s, but now they look thin, but they're definitely well fed. They eat a lot, and it's high quality food. We try to focus on nutrient density. So when we go to the gardens, we try to treat the gardens as, what's going to fill us up, what's going to be nutrient dense, and what is storable as much as possible through the winter months. Almost all of our vegetables come from the garden. Every once in a while, I'll be craving something that we don't have in our garden, like asparagus or Brussels sprouts or cabbages, and they're not in season, and I really, really want them. And, so we'll get some things like that, occasionally like broccoli florets. But generally from, about April... Usually about April through November, we're mostly just eating the vegetables from our gardens. And we would like to extend that. It's hard to get the timing right for fall gardening. And you don't exactly know when the frosts are going to come in. So sometimes you don't get that second late harvest that you're hoping for. Like, I just missed my chance to plant potatoes this year. I couldn't get any seed potatoes. The potatoes that I bought from the store did not form eyes fast enough. So I'm going to wait all the way until the end of January and let them make lots of eyes and then put them in there. So when you're looking at your pantry and what you eat, it's good to stockpile and to store things like beans and rice and grains if you make breads or that sort of thing. Potatoes, potato flakes, right? Like stuff that's going to fill you up. The piles and piles of Spam. Whatever high calorie stuff that will fill you up and keep you moving and working. That's fine. But beyond the pantry, I think one of the best stockpiles of food you can have is your garden. A lot of roots will survive in the ground through winter and be edible through winter, provided you can dig them out. In some climates, as some of you know, some of you further north, you are going to have the ground freeze hard enough that actually getting roots out of the ground would probably require a pickaxe. It's difficult. It's not great. But generally, zones 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, you're going to be able to dig some of those roots out through the winter. I mean, the ground would freeze when we were in 6/7 Tennessee, but it wasn't always frozen. We were able to spam. There you go. We were able to keep Jerusalem artichokes in the ground all the way through the winter, and it's the best way to keep them, because we found when we dug up the Jerusalem artichokes, we dug up the tubers. Now, Jerusalem artichokes flourish up into zone 3, so if it's real cold climate, no problem. Zone 3, you still can grow Jerusalem artichokes. They're a traditional survival root crop, but the roots would stay in the ground. If I harvested them and put them on the counter, they would get limp and rubbery and spoil in a short period of time. They just didn't last very long. They would not last out of the ground, but if they stayed in the moist, cool earth, that's where they were designed to stay through the winter until the plant wakes up again. When the plant wakes up again and grows in the spring after frost is over, whew, man, there you go. It's like a little stasis unit, keeping the life of the plant alive in the ground all the way through that season. So just take advantage of that and dig it when you need it. When you get down to zones 9, 10, 11, this is the way it works with yams and some varieties of dasheen/taro. They will go through a dormancy cycle when it comes to the cooler, drier time of the year. The tops of them die off, and then down in the ground, the root is there. You can dig that root up if you want to, sell it or look at it, but you don't really need to. Just leave it in the ground to sleep until it's time to eat. So November through about April, you could dig traditional yams. They were dormant down in the Caribbean. They're dormant. They just sit there. The same thing in Florida. Those Dioscorea species, they're great. They sleep right through the winter. And now winter is the point where a lot of your other garden crops are not really coming in. So they're stored down there in the ground. You've got 20 to 30 pound roots sometimes just sleeping there beneath the earth. One of those roots I once calculated, it was 20 something pounds. I calculated that root represented 10,000 calories. It's 5 days worth of calories for an adult. It's pretty impressive. It's a lot of calories. And that's one plant. One big root. When you get further north, back again, you're looking at, you're generally going to have to harvest and store more things. Jerusalem artichokes are kind of an outlier. I mean, horseradish will do the same, but it's not like you want to dig up a horseradish and boil it and eat it. Some of your root crops will do that. You know, some things like mangle beets and stuff, they may do that. If you have a mulch cover that you could throw over some roots, they will keep in the ground. You can keep carrots alive and other things. But it generally is not particularly easy to harvest them when the ground gets really cold and miserable. So, thank you, Carla. Glad you were here. I appreciate the super chat. Have a wonderful day/night as well. God bless. Thank you for being a member, and I like your avatar. It is nice. That's cheerful. So, grains, beans, and lots of canned stuff. You know, you could can a lot of things. You could can beets. You know, you could store potatoes through the winter. If you have a longer season with potatoes, the problem in the South with potatoes is you plant the potatoes early, January, February, all the way up to maybe March 1st, and they sit in the ground and they wake up and they grow, and then April, May, June, sometime in June, sometimes earlier, you dig up your potatoes. And now they've got to not rot through July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, right? So there's like 8 months of potato storage, and it's not particularly easy to root cellar in the South because we don't, I mean, where I am, if you dig a cellar space, it's going to fill up with water because of the water table, and there's a lot of seepage and there's a lot of rain. And it's also not going to be much colder than the 70s most of the year because the ground is in the 70s most of the years. So, yeah, rutabaga. That's what I'm planting now. So, your storage crops up north, you may be able to store those roots. If your potatoes are ripening up and coming ready in August, September, that's great for the winter. It's a different time. Your potato supply is going to run out probably by, early spring, late winter, but it's a different, you're on a different cycle. If you're able to store beans, that's good. And my favorite grain for survival crop is corn. Cornmeal, cornbread, tortillas, polenta. There's hominy, grits, right? There's all these things that you could do with corn. If you're further north, you want those short season flint corns. They'll grow all the way up through the northeast, northern California, no problem. Midwest, no problem. These flint corns take maybe 90 days to make corn. They're not as tall and vigorous as those gigantic dent corns that I like to grow down here in the south. But they are scrappy and they do well in that shorter climate with cooler weather, etc. So you can grow the corn and save the corn, and then that corn seed, if you store it well, you could store dry corn for years. It's pretty cool. So, yeah, another one. SNLG says, Florida here, looked at what I could plant as a perennial, got Caucasian spinach, scarlet runner beans, quinoa, cardoons, horseradish, peanuts, and Jerusalem artichokes. Won't look like food crops. Yes, I would. Scarlet runner beans did horribly for me in Florida. I would avoid those. I would plant jicama, not for the beans, but for the roots. That's a pretty good one. And cardoons, I don't know. I've heard they're touchy. Quinoa, not too big a deal. Cassava, sweet potatoes, true yams, Mexican tree spinach. Those are your crops that will get you through. Yacon is a minor root crop, which is also easy to grow in Florida. There's probably a few others I'm forgetting. Oh, arrowroot, very easy to grow, and it's a perennial, makes big clumps. And of course, being in Florida, you can also grow bananas and plantains, which I believe are pretty much your best perennial fruit, and you could treat it like a root crop because the cooked green bananas and plantains are very much like a potato, similar, or another root, in carbohydrate content, complex carbohydrates. So a lot of these things, yes, it's good that they don't look like food crops too, but scarlet runner beans did horribly for me there. I was very disappointed with them. Further north they did okay. Like zone 7 they did okay for me, but they did not like Florida zone 8B/9. Jerusalem artichokes, some varieties will grow as far south as Orlando, but they're not as vigorous as they are farther north. So, if you're going to store food in your pantry, I also highly recommend storing food in your garden. Get in those fall crops that you can carry through the winter. Get in stuff in spring. And first of all, of course, like I always say, concentrate on the stuff that will fill you up. The dumbest thing ever in the history of dumb gardening things was when an aquaponics system was being promoted down to the Caribbean to help relieve hunger. What can you grow in an aquaponics system? It's not roots that would actually fill you up, like potatoes. No, they were growing lettuces, some herbs, a few sickly looking tomatoes, and they were like, this is going to help with hunger relief. And I'm like, literally, the Rastaman that be on top of that hill, the Rastaman be growing them big yam. He been growing yams so. And you been growing them little lettuce. I don't understand his mentality. It's terrible. It's ridiculous. Doesn't make any sense. Guy with a hoe up on the hill. Smoking every morning. You wonder why I look so? You wonder why I looking so young and vital? Smoking 2 times every morning. Then me working the farm, right? So they go out to the farm and smoke a few, hack some holes in the ground, chop some yams up in pieces, plant them into bits, plant them in there. When the rains come, they grow. They're not irrigating or anything. They're growing roots in the ground. Easy as pie. Rasta man almost blew my earbud out. Oh, I could tell you stories. Anyhow, putting those roots in the ground that are going to fill you up. Now, that's smart. Planting them widely so you don't have to irrigate, that's smart. Smart. So, you got a guy up on the hillside with no education. Or almost no education. Who's got 100,000 calories in the ground in a little plot. And he spent almost nothing on it. He's recycled his planting material, dipped it in ashes from the fire, planted it, burned a little piece of the bush there, planted that area with a hoe that he's repaired the handle on 100 times with saplings from the woods. 100,000 calories in the ground in a little patch. You look down at this imported aquaponics system with its anemic lettuces and its perpetually dying fish. That costs $1,000 to put together from imported materials. They actually told me, well, you know, this aquaponics system really makes sense because it saves on irrigation. Because they're recycling the water, right? If the guys on the hill are growing with the rain! It's literally a rainforest! Oh my gosh. Yeah, when you have 20,000 hours in the dirt, that's an education. Absolutely. Absolutely. I just talked to an old friend of mine. His name is Nazim. Nazim is Kurdish. He met my dad actually. My dad was a pastor, and Nazim came to the United States because he was basically fleeing being killed or something along those lines, and it was a difficult situation. My dad helped him through it. I won't tell you anymore, but we first gave him a ride around Fort Lauderdale, and it was the first time he'd really had a glimpse of the United States other than from an airplane. And we gave him a little tour of Fort Lauderdale. And he's looking at all the yards, right? And the climate. Everything is green. There are, Christmas palms and beautiful pieces of landscaping, oleanders and bougainvilleas and all this stuff. And he's looking at all the yards and he goes, "Where's the food? Where are they growing food? Where are they growing food?" And I said, he says, "You have this climate. I don't understand this mentality. I don't understand this mentality." I'm like, "You're right." I was young, and I just talked to him for the first time in, my goodness, 20 years? 20 years. He reaches out to a friend of mine, and then he asks if I'm still around, and he gets in touch with me, and he's got his own company now and all this stuff. But when he was young, I remember my dad driving him around. First time he sees the United States, what is going on? You've got all this rain and all this dirt. Nobody's growing food. Why isn't anybody growing food? It's crazy. and that always stuck with me. What is this mentality? Okay, I'm going to stock my pantry with a bunch of MREs that are not as nutritious as what I could grow in my own garden. Yes, they take less preparation. They have a lot more salt in them. I guess that's good. I like salt. But we've got yards with tons of space. You know, we gotta have a lawn. Gotta make sure we have a lawn. What about the property value, you know? Thank you, Charlie, for the super chat. I support this message. God bless you. I appreciate it. Nice setup into an aquaponics rant. Have I ever grown potato from true potato seed? No, I have not. It's like a 2-year process, and I don't think I quite have the right climate to do it in. I mean, it would be kind of fun, but... Hey, Kathy, North Alabama, checking in. Glad to share a state with you, Kathy. Carolyn, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. For educating us in a humorous way. I appreciate it. That's very nice of you. Why aren't you growing food? It's illegal in a lot of places. It's terrible. Andy has a question. This is a question. A lot of people are probably in this position. Hi, David. I'm 22 years old, living on my own in Ocala, Florida. I'm currently renting and don't have much room to grow food. Do you have any suggestions on how to start and what to grow? Yes. If you're really limited on space, it's hard to grow enough calories to fill you up. So you might put that idea aside. You don't have space to grow cassava, yams, sweet potatoes, that sort of thing necessarily. And instead grow the highest nutrition greens and herbs and small fruits that you can grow. So, you know, plant kale and moringa and sage and rosemary and fertilize them with the widest range of nutrients that you are able to fertilize them with. One of the best things that you can give your plants is kelp meal if you can get a hold of some. It's expensive, but when you put it into the soil, you're adding a lot of minerals to the soil. There are a lot of ways to mineralize the soil, but that is a very effective one in particular. Seaweed, if you can get seaweed from the ocean, you know, you go on a beach trip, take a girl on a date, go on a beach trip, make her pick up a bunch of seaweed for you. Perfect. Multitasking. So you load up, you load up your little herb garden and then grow what you can of the very best stuff to eat. So Everglades tomatoes, cayenne peppers, jalapeno peppers, those are great and medicinal, good for you. You can grow lettuces. Are not particularly that nutritious, but if you give them extra, kelp meal and stuff, they're pretty good. They're better than they would be otherwise. There are even better greens like chaya, which is Mexican tree spinach. Longevity spinach is very good. Okinawa spinach is quite good. These things are useful for giving yourself some nutrition and using a limited space. Now, beyond that, I would consider asking someone if you can put a garden in their yard, particularly If your landlord does not allow you to garden in your yard, or if you're in a condo or something like that, make the best container gardens that you can, and look around for another place where you could put some calories in the ground. If you go to church, maybe there's somebody in your church that's got a spot that you could garden. But if it's right in your neighborhood, that's even better because you can visit it. Sometimes there are empty lots here and there that you can garden on. Sometimes you can just guerrilla garden on an empty lot and nobody's going to pay any attention. And it doesn't matter. I guerrilla gardened true yams in Florida for an extra food supply in an empty lot across the street from me. I planted them here and there, all over the place. But there may be something like that, and I recommend that you meet up with other gardeners. Check out your meetup groups and stuff like that. Maybe you can run into some people that will have land or will allow you to work and harvest from some sort of a community thing. Christopher sends a super chat, thank you very much, and says, thank you for turning me on to Steve Solomon. Gardening when it counts is blowing my mind. Any suggestions for safe manure? I'm a bit thrown by his suggestion of using so much, given my fear of aminopyralids. Yeah. I don't think in Florida you are going to really find a safe source of manure unless you can find a farm where they are feeding the animals completely with organic hay. Because the hay sources are contaminated with aminopyralids, which are long-term herbicides, which will destroy your garden. They can be digested by the animals, go through in the manure, you can compost the manure, put it on your garden, and it will still color your garden for the next couple of years. It's terrible. It doesn't make any sense to even import manure to your property anymore when so much of it is poisoned, and so many compost supplies have been poisoned now because of this nasty, satanic, evil garbage stuff. So, it is safer to go get cottonseed meal or alfalfa hay or alfalfa pellets and use it in place of manure, if you can. That is what I would do, and that is what I have done. It's terrible. It's terrible. It's so hard to source it. People keep saying, "Oh, my neighbor has horses and they are giving me a whole truckload." I'm like, don't do that! Seriously, the horses eat one bale of hay that has been sprayed with this stuff, and all your gardens are dead for the next year or 2 years. I lost $1,000 worth of plants because I bought manure and had it dropped off from a dairy farm, and they had just sprayed the field with the stuff one time the previous summer, and it was in the manure. I mean, come on. So I would use cottonseed meal or other seed meals if you can get them. They're higher in protein content, or alfalfa pellets or alfalfa meal. Those work well. Peanut hay you could probably turn under the ground too, but it's not quite as rich. Another option is to simply use the compost that you can get and occasionally side dress with a little 10-10-10 or something to feed them. I mean, unfortunately, 10-10-10 is actually safer than using manure, which just makes me so irritated. I'm an organic gardener by nature, and who is incredibly frustrated with how big ag has screwed all this stuff up. I hope that helps. SNLG says, I have rabbit and chicken poop. Should I use it? Yes, if you are not feeding your rabbits hay. If they're fed alfalfa, that's fine. But if you're feeding them Timothy hay or other hay, or if the manure is being mixed up with straw, no, don't do that. If you feed them weeds and they're eating alfalfa, alfalfa's fine because it's a broadleaf. It's not sprayed. It may be sprayed with other stuff, but it's not sprayed with those long-term herbicides that destroy your garden. So rabbit and chicken poop are usually fine. If your chicken coop, there's no hay or straw in it, fine. You know, the whatever garbage, soy and corn stuff that's in the chicken feed, that will not destroy your garden. It's not like the hay that's been sprayed. The way it works is they spray the fields with this selective herbicide and it kills off the broadleaf stuff. which means most of your gardens are broadleaf, right? So this is non-grass plants. It kills off most of the non-grass plants, and it sits in the ground, and it sits in the ground, and it sits in the ground, and it causes trouble, and it poisons successions of plants. It's so frustrating. I hate this stuff. And you know, being a garden writer, people write me regularly and say, "Is this that stuff you wrote about? Did you see this?" Or, "I got some manure and everything that I have died." I mean, we did a little fundraiser, what was it, a couple of years ago, for a gal named Caroline who had imported soil for her gardens from a composting facility and then poisoned all of her gardens. All of her food started twisting up and getting messed up, and I'm like, Caroline, this is terrible. And I asked everybody, I was like, okay, let's give to Caroline. So we did a stream, and she filmed a little video about her story, and we showed it, and we did a stream to replace the dirt in her gardens because it was all contaminated. It's crazy. And I think we raised a few $100 and sent it to her, which was cool. Thank you very much, Cassie. Cassie sends a super chat. Preach! Oh, my dad was a preacher. I can't help it. Rich sends a super chat. Thank you, Rich. Found you 3 months ago and love your practical approach to gardening. Thanks. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for the tip. I think that my approach to gardening could be called practiculture. You know, they say that, you know, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. I generally try to follow that, with the exception of knowing that brutal utilitarianism is also not godly or good for the environment, right? So the shortest distance between 2 points, straight line, you may say, I have a pest. What broad spectrum pesticide can I spray to wipe it out? And you spray your entire garden with that broad spectrum pesticide and you wipe everything out, including the insects that were designed to get rid of that pest. The ladybug population might just be taking off at the point that you spray, and you've just missed a chance to see how God's design in nature is going to intervene and save you. But sometimes nature does not intervene and save you, and your crop is very important to you. So in that case, you use the least toxic weapon that you can find to wipe out the infestation and get food to your table. The point is to get food to your table. This is very important. We're not gardening to make philosophical statements, at least not most of us. We're not gardening because we have some, I don't know, some deep thing that we want to signal. My gardens are not virtue signaling about how amazingly dedicated I am to a particular system. My systems change all the time, and I experiment with different systems, different amendments, different ideas, different tools, and I pick and choose the ones that work the best for my primary goal, which is growing food. So sometimes you see me till, sometimes you see me deep mulch. Sometimes I put a lasagna garden in. Sometimes I put wide-spaced row gardens in that look like a garden from the 1940s. The primary goal is to have good food for my family. I want the highest quality food, but I'm also trying to balance that with enough food to be full, right? So let's say you believe in eating organically. You have a $100 budget for the week. Do you feed your 3 children with a papaya, 20 Brussels sprouts, a organic whole chicken, and a couple of gallons of organic milk, and then a bag of organic potatoes, and like that's it, right? So you have enough food for maybe 2 or 3 days, and then the rest of the week you starve. Well, that's no good. You're limited by what your budget is, and you're limited by what your time is. And so practically speaking, you want to do the best you can to stretch that $100 and the best you can to keep your family fed reasonably. So you look around and you say, okay, well, if I buy potatoes from Piggly Wiggly, maybe, you know, or Walmart or whatever, I can get a 20-pound bag for $6. And I reckon potatoes are probably not one of those heavily sprayed crops. They're a root crop. They're beneath the ground. So they're not like one of those, what are they, the Dirty Dozen, where they do it every year. You know, oh, you know, grapes have 3,000 pesticides on them. Enjoy your grapes, right? You look and you say, okay, I'm gonna get the best bang for my buck with the high quality nutrient dense stuff. I want some nutrient density for the kids, but at the same time, I don't have enough money to feed them as well as I would like. They ought to have enough fat and protein and carbohydrates to be healthy through the week and full. It's no good to be starving and eating high quality Brussels sprouts, like one Brussels sprout a day or something, you know? Right, Anon H says, I think there's a list of most and least sprayed conventional crops. Exactly. So you might go and get some, get some organic kelp meal, organic kelp, or organic seaweed from the health food store for that super high nutrient density. You might buy some really good greens there, like kale, or you might buy some of those Brussels sprouts. You might buy some Brazil nuts. Brazil nuts are usually gathered in the wild. That's cool. And then you might just go buy some conventional ground beef, because you can't afford enough ground beef to keep the kids full. You know, you just try to work through it. And life is a constant balance, and sometimes if you're completely and utterly insanely dedicated to a system, you're not going to reach. You don't want your secondary goal of taking care of the earth, trying to grow the soil biota, etc., to get in the way of your primary goal, which is having food for your family, if that makes sense. You know, there's a time to till. There's a time to weed. If the neighbor has a tractor, my neighbor has a tractor, I will borrow that tractor. I am not proud. If I can't get enough wood chips, I'm not going to do a big wood chip area. You know, I mean, you do what you can to get food on the table, and you grow to the best of your ability. I would even venture to say that higher nutrient density in your food is more important than whether or not it's grown conventionally. So, conventional crops grown on volcanic soil, you know, using all the nasty pesticides and chemical fertilizers or whatever they use, conventional crops on volcanic soil could possibly be better for you than organically grown crops from poor, eroded soil, because the nutrient density just isn't there. And if you're cycling compost and manure from degraded ground, you know, you can see what Weston Price was discovering, you know, with poor jaw development and bad teeth. My grandparents grew up eating food in upstate New York, and a lot of the food came out of their own farm and their own neighborhood, I guess. And both of them lost all their teeth by the time they were in their 30s. Wow. I doubt they would have lost their teeth if they were growing on Maui, for example. I think the soil was probably diluted, or depleted where they were. So, oh, Mart, I have read that book multiple times. I never stop reading Steve Solomon's books. As a matter of fact, there's a little bit on it in, let's see, where is it? Oh, I don't have it right here. I thought I had it right here. Anyhow, I'm working on Steve Solomon's book, Gardening Without Irrigation, aka Water-Wise Gardening, right now. And look at if you can grow nutrient-dense food organically, that's ideal. You're doing great. If you grow nutrient-dense food non-organically, it's pretty good. If you can grow nutrient-poor food organically, well, at least you're growing food. If you could grow nutrient-poor food chemically, well, you got food in the ground still. It's better than not growing food. Not growing food is the thing you don't want to do. And whatever's keeping you from not growing food, if your organic garden plot is overrun with pests, or the food doesn't taste very good, or the plants aren't developing very well, and you sneak out and you get some chemical fertilizer and you throw it on there and it works better, I will not condemn you. Because I would do exactly the same thing if my garden is there to feed my family. If you're worried, get some calories in the ground. I dare say we worry more about the methods that we garden with than we worry about all the stuff that we're shoving into our mouths at a restaurant. That non-organic canola vegetable oil that our enchilada platter was cooked in. My goodness. The corn chips. Genetically modified corn. Drenched in glyphosate. Fried in hydrogenated oils. Okay, and then we go home and we're like, I would never use 7 Dust in my garden. I would never let a 7 Dust touch my plants. Right? I mean, come on. Look, it's all balancing here, right? It's very hard to see these things sometimes. I have a friend. No, I can't say it. I'll get in trouble. Anyhow, being too dedicated to a system can lead to losses. There you go. Martha says, I have sprouted a peach tree from the pit. Thanks to you, David. I will let it grow over the winter and put it out with its mama tree next spring. Fantastic. Peaches can fruit so fast. I've got some in the ground right now. Freaking Dave Hartman says, learn your weeds. Nutrient dense and organic. You are exactly right. Absolutely agree with you. You will grow no food and be happy. Hobby Woodworker says, anyone know if David's still growing his pipe corn? I'm right here! No, it was called Missouri Meerschaum or something like that. Missouri pipe corn. It was from Baker Creek Seeds. That's where I got it. I doubt it. I don't think it's still out there, but I don't have it. It died in the Caribbean. I could not save seeds from it. They died out on me, unfortunately. Same. Did our grandparents live near each other? My grandparents lived near Sackett's Harbor. Let me see. Baconing time. That's hilarious. Dude, you have quite the following. Prepare yourself for success. I hope you have an agent. Yeah, I guess it's my wife. She's like, don't take that deal, it's terrible. Rex Steps sends a super chat and says, would you rather have a 12-page calendar full of luscious, busty pumpkins or Steve Solomon posing with bags of fertilizer? Busty pumpkins. My gosh. The micronutrient calendar. The girls of the periodic table. I mean, come on. That's ridiculous. But that's funny. Would you rather have a 12-page calendar? Okay, I gotta say, one of my favorite calendars that I ever saw was down in the Caribbean. They had a calendar for one of these shops had a calendar for, I think it was for steel or still, I don't know how you say it, power equipment, right? And it was all really good looking girls with like midriff bearing shirts and goggles using power equipment, right? Like the girls are sort of half clad, but they have dangerous power equipment. And it just struck me as so funny. It's like, you know, May is with a chainsaw and her little shirt tied up, showing off her perfect belly. Oh, you know, and then like June and July, they're long legs and short shorts. You know, using an edger. Like, this is just, the cognitive dissonance is off the charts here. Put some clothes on. My God, you need a bee suit. I guess, yeah, whatever. It was funny. I do have some of the Foxfire books. I have not tried Oka yet. I have not been able to get it. Do I plan on getting a drone for footage? You know, I looked at drones. They were like $600 or something for a good one. I didn't want to get a junky one. I don't want like one of those things that you get for Christmas and it breaks 2 days later. But the price of it, I just look at like $600. I don't know. I'd rather buy some more micronutrients. I'm gonna get that calendar printed. That's hilarious. So that's why I don't have a drone. It would be cool to add to the channel. I'll put up a GoFundMe. I am so cheap, guys. I did spend money to get a decent camera. I spent money to get a good shotgun microphone because we had so many problems with wind noise and hard to understand audio. I think those things are important for running the YouTube channel. I have bought lenses. I have a collection of lenses. Most of the lenses are not particularly expensive. I like to bottom feed on YouTube and get or on eBay and get old lenses that are vintage. Now that I'm back in the States and I can do that sort of thing. This is Rachel's favorite lens right here. This is a Soviet lens. I don't know if you can read that there. Made in USSR. You may not be able to see that. Put it right in the middle. Made in USSR. This is a 58mm lens that makes everything look like liquid. They cost like $60. If I wanted really high quality glass for my camera, it would be, you know, if you want like the Canon L lenses and stuff, you spend like $2,000 on a lens. It's crazy. I'm not doing that. Especially not when I can play with stuff like this. I think I got this lens for like $50 this last week. It was one that Stephen Edholm recommended. This is the Cambron Ultra Wide Multi-Coated Lens. It's a 20mm, so it's pretty wide. I'll show you my Behemoth lens. This lens was more expensive. I spent a couple $100 on this lens, I think. But I think I got it on sale. This is a Rokinon. This is a cinema lens, which actually allows you to go. It's a very wide angle lens, as you can tell by the thing here, and the focus is really smooth, unlike a regular photography lens. I can open up the aperture and pull focus, so you can get that zoom in on something. This one I used in one of our videos recently as a test for, you know, a pre-test before we filmed Behemoth 3, which is coming out on Halloween. In Soviet Russia, a lens focuses you. Scott says, maybe an Industar lens. I love old Soviet lenses. Yeah, that would be a good idea. Dr. Zhivago lens, that's right. I have a Jupiter lens, but it will not work because I do not have a rangefinder style camera. If I had a mirrorless camera, it would work. I got it, and it turns out I can stick it on the camera. Look at this old Soviet lens. I can put this on the camera, but it will not focus. It needs to go flat. So if I had a mirrorless camera, the focusing distance would probably be correct, and I'd be able to use it. So I'll trade you, Scott, if you have a mirrorless. So anyhow, run the camera on a wire from tree to tree and fake the drone footage. So anyhow, I have this collection of lenses. It is a dubious hobby. The nice thing about them is I can resell them, unlike like cameras and electronics generally deteriorate and become worth less every year. My 70D was kind of an expensive camera when it came out, and now it's a few $100 on eBay, and in another couple of years it'll be $100 or $50 or whatever. It's just not that. The value of the electronics does not hold up, but the value of the lenses does hold up, so it's easy to resell them. But a drone, it's one of those things where you spend $600 on the drone, and do you get it back? I don't know. Would it make more money? Would it be better? Would it make better videos? Probably. It would be kind of cool to zip a drone around and stuff, but with my luck, I'd probably break it or fly it into the pond or something. Yeah, high school kid with a drone. Good idea. Hey, Dan. That's funny. So, yep, the Famous 3 is coming out, so. Scott says analog cameras and lenses are actually expensive right now with the film fad. Yeah, it's coming back. Carolyn says, so I have PBS on in the background. The Nova series is on. They're playing a program about cannabis, the growing, the molecules, what it does in the brain. I'm going to have to play it later. Yeah. Actually, man, if you had it, like if you were, like, really, like, you could listen to, like, that on a stream at the same time, and, like, your concentration would be, like, yeah, like, cool. It is the music and the veggies that bring me here. Yeah. A beautiful lady stepped into my yard. I don't know why she was there. She had a beautiful face and beautiful eyes and beautiful long blonde hair. I said, I don't know why you're here. And she said, it's the music and the veggies that bring me here. That's it. I could have recorded awesome garden stock footage. It'd be weird. My purple hull peas almost all completely rotted and died. So Kathy, no, not good. The veggies and the music bring me here. The music that I play is a way to get rid of people that I wouldn't like anyhow. So people complain, right? Hey, Sherry. People complain about the music, and it gets rid of them. It gets rid of the people that I probably wouldn't like anyways, and that most of you guys wouldn't like anyway. So I put in music. Sometimes it's ridiculous, you know. Because if we can't laugh at ourselves and goof off, who cares? I think I asked this before. but do you grow mushrooms to eat? No, I tried. Mart and I, we planted some in buckets. Didn't work out for me. I never tried again. I never tried again. Because mushrooms just aren't plants. I just can't get excited about anything that isn't plants. And mushrooms just aren't plants. Mushrooms just aren't plants. The other thing that I don't like about mushrooms is that you have to go and buy that spawn. Gotta buy that spawn. Then you go out and you gotta fell trees at a particular time, and then you gotta drill holes in them, and then you have to put in that spawn. And the word spawn is really weird. It's too weird, and I don't like that. I heard something so weird. So, it's not sustainable. I did try to grow mushrooms in a substrate from other mushrooms, but I didn't really have much luck. Oh yeah. So I've never really been particularly good. This is my day job, Oracle of God. This is literally my day job. Spurn! My porterweed tastes like mushrooms. It's like weirdest sentences ever written. Texas Farmer says, requesting the Cat Lady song on the Tunes channel. I really gotta finish that song. It's not completely done. It will get there eventually. When is my album? Eventually. I'll tell you, I think I've said why I haven't done the album. It's because it takes a lot of effort to record everything properly and do all the tracks and all that stuff. And I launched a publishing house this year, and I'm trying to maintain writing my own books on a schedule plus running a publishing house. I got 2 other people's books I'm editing right now, with the possibility of publishing by a couple of other people. And so I'm trying to stay on top of that and get stuff out and published. And I am also trying to keep my gardens in good shape and record 2 to 3 videos a week and spend time with my family and go to the gym 3 times a week. So what always happens is the album falls to the back behind doing, work that brings in income. I know if I did an album, I would sell a few copies. But if I write a book, I'll sell a few thousand copies. So finishing a book provides more potential income and utility to the family than actually finishing an album. So I like to goof around, but I don't finish it very much. I have not done it. Let's see, where am I? Carolyn says 30,000 years would be good too. Yeah, that one should definitely be on there. Let's see, I'm trying to get through here. It's flying all over the place. I'm searching through. Mitchker Messi says, I want to buy land in Arkansas with creek in it or without creek. What is better to buy? Well, generally it's good to have a water supply. However, if the creek is subject to flooding or you have a floodplain, the creek can actually be a liability, and you don't want that. I had water running through my backyard occasionally in Tennessee, and when it would flood, it really flooded, and it tore all of my gardens out and did a lot of damage. So you don't want to be in that kind of a situation. If you have high dry ground and a creek, excellent. I would go for the creek. But if you have a creek with a floodplain, I wouldn't do that. Trump 1 says, will drying and curing different tobaccos the same way produce the same flavor even if it's different cultivars? No, it shouldn't. There's different levels of sweetness and bitterness in different cultivars. So that's why there are different cultivars. Victoria says, I'm less worried about people loving Jesus and more concerned if they hate or abuse people. Deeds, not words. Well, we're not supposed to abuse people, but some people should be hated. Does that sound crazy? There are very nasty people in this world that I have no problem hating. You know, probably the predators that you're talking about, people that abuse people. In that case, I don't think that's really a problem. But obviously, it's not our job to deal with that sort of thing. You know, if somebody is really, really wicked and nasty, obviously you don't want them in your life. You want to make sure they get turned over to the authorities or whatever else. Ejected from your fellowship, ejected from your family. Those things are important because those people can cause serious and horrible long-term damage. But there needs to be a level of hate, or at least a level of disgust, that will protect you and your family from that kind of a person. There are people that are just wretchedly bad. Now, if they repented and changed their lives, etc., you could cautiously forgive them, but I would not reincorporate them into your life. And deeds are important. Words are, a person that says the words, but they don't follow on what they preach. Well, obviously you can reject those people, Victoria. I'm certainly, absolutely. And it's easy with Christians because there is, they have a book of standards that they're held to. So it's really easy. Sometimes with other people, you don't really know what their standards are. If somebody holds to a philosophical system like minimalism, but they do a live stream on their channel about minimalism and their room is an absolute wreck, or it looks like my office, then you're like, wait a minute, I thought you were a minimalist. If somebody says they they love Jesus, but they like kick the homeless man because he's in the front door of the church, okay, well, yeah, discount that person. That's not what you're supposed to do. Yeah, Dan says Proverbs 6:16 to 19. These 6 things doth the Lord hate, yea, 7 are an abomination unto him: a proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood. Okay, Victoria, I understand. Yes, a heart that devises wicked imaginations, feet that be swift in running to mischief, a false witness that speaketh lies, and he that soweth discord among brethren. Ugh. You've met people like that, right? Oh, the people that, like... You know what your brother said about you? Or the people that, like, try to use... We should really send our thoughts and prayers to so-and-so because you know what she's dealing with. Oh my gosh, she did blah, 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 blah. And it's like just an excuse to gossip. But we should really, really pray for her. It's gotta be so hard. But what they really mean is, like, this is a really good chance to gossip, Anyhow. I don't know about Christian YouTube channel suggestions, but I highly recommend reading the book of, I would read through Paul's epistles, 1st and 2nd Corinthians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, Galatians. Those will all help focus you and be useful, Oh, hey, I have 144,000 subscribers. Oh my gosh, retired senior chief. The numerologist is here. Holy moly, that's freaky. I have 144,000. I need to stop here. We can't add any more subscribers. From now on, I'm just going to start banning people from the channel. The Chosen. Oh, that is too weird. All right, that's funny. Well, guys, really, I kind of got off track a little bit here, but the idea of calories in the ground, growing food when you get it, you'll get it, you'll understand. If you bought tobacco seeds, you're gonna smoke it in a pipe. It's a steep learning curve. Yeah, it is. But I'll tell you, if you have a moderately warm and somewhat humid place where you can hang them up, like a barn or an outbuilding, you can grow the leaves and just stick a string through a bunch of them. Take a needle and string and run it through the midribs and just hang it up somewhere. Hang it all up somewhere, you know, underneath the roof, and maybe get dusty and stuff. But after it sits like 6 months to a year and it slowly browns down, it gets sweeter and the flavor gets really good. It makes a big difference. I used to do that in the tropics. I did it in Florida. Actually, in the tropics, it was so humid outside, I would just hang them on there were bars over the window where we were renting, and I would hang them on the bars. And the bars, it would just hang on the bars, and the breeze would come through, and the breeze was so humid that the leaves were always pliable and soft, and they slowly became very sweet and delicious, and they were really good. They were really good. One more song. Any requests, Alan? Tobacco takes a little bit of work once it gets going. I mean, okay, I'll show you one of my favorite cigars here. Yes, you could definitely grow tobacco in North Florida. I did it. This is a punch cigar. This is a sucker punch. It's got like a chick with a hat on it, like with her dukes up, like she's gonna punch you. She's got to sucker punch you because she's kind of like small, and like if she actually just started punching you from the front, you could like, well, no, let's not talk about that. But sucker punch. They probably have, the tobacco in this is probably 3 years of aging and 3 different tobaccos. There's usually a wrapper, a binder, and a filler. So the filler is when you crumple up the leaves like this and you make a nice stick of it. And then you use a binder which ties that up, and that's your first level of wrapping. That holds that together. You've got to basically work the leaves out like this and get the air pockets out of it, but not too tight, pretty tight. And then you wrap that carefully with a binder. That makes a nice shape. And then you get a nice, flavorful, perfect leaf with the ribs cut out of it, like half of a big, nice tobacco leaf. And that's your outer side, and you wrap it up. And you've got to do this when the tobacco is at a certain moisture level, or else it all crumbles. And if it's too wet, it won't smoke. And then when they all sit together, you roll your nice, pretty cigar. It takes a lot of practice. My cigars do not look that pretty, but I can roll a good smokable cigar. Okay, yeah, Vonry says, when we grew tobacco in Virginia, we dried the tobacco in a barn with a low wooden fire inside a 2-story barn. Yeah, that would be the flue cured, right? Isn't that what you would say? I think that's a flue cured. And it's a slow, you're slowly sweating out the stuff that doesn't taste good. Lime buggy. And 30,000 years too. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I don't know how to teach you the solo. Perry played that. I strive to create lyrically deep songs. I need Son of Good to shred. That's right. Trader Monkey says tobacco gets partially composted really before smoking. Yeah. Hobby Woodworker says a homemade kiln with a crock pot of water can accelerate years worth of aging tobaccos in a few months. You know, I saw there was a guy that made these curing booths out of like a styrofoam liner and stuff, and hung the tobacco up in there and basically steamed it at a certain temperature or something like that, and it was beautiful. It looked like it was really, really good. Let me see what we got here. I'm glad you guys like that song. I think that, oh my gosh. I think it's funny, but I know that's some of the dumbest lyrics ever written, but it's cool. It's a lime buggy. I mean, it's sort of, wow, what's a lime buggy? Well, it's the thing on the back of the truck in my field. You know, whoa, wow, you know. Dan says, I have a recording studio. I'm probably 6-ish hours from you. I have a place for you to stay. Free recording, and you can yell at me for not utilizing my property to grow more. Hey, that would be good. I have to go to like a retreat to just record the... That's not a bad idea, Dan. Well, you can drop me an email. That's fun. Well, you guys have a great night. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you to all of our members on this channel that support it. I appreciate the members. Some of you guys now are at your 2-year membership. How wild is that? Pretty cool. So thank you all. You're swimming in pink guavas. That's a rap video, dude. That is such a rap video. Well, I've had it up to here with the roots, cassava and... Okay, I've had it up to here with roots, yacon and cassava. Here I am swimming in 16 feet of the guavas. Oh, no, it's a 16-year tree. And a 16-year tree that's dropping pink guavas. Oh, 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 oh. Can't compete with the calories of cassavas. Yeah, something like that. Hey, Sunny Days and Sandy Toes, nice to see you again. I smoked the tobacco when I was there in Indonesia. It was not bad. It's a little harsher than I was used to. Not from that guy's place, but I had it cured the same way. Bossa Nova style. I wonder if... I don't think Lime Buggy could be a Bossa Nova. There's a truck in my field. In my field. There is a truck on the back. There's a thing. Yes, a thing is on the back. What's that thing on the back of the truck that's in my field? It's a lime buggy, buggy lime. It's a lime buggy lime. A lime buggy on a truck with a lime buggy. A buggy that is filled with lime, a lime-filled buggy thing, oh my, oh my. Yeah, I guess that would work. I could probably figure it out. We need a stand-up bass. That would be really good. There is no field without a lime buggy. Anyhow, have a good night. Like I've said, I've told you guys that I'm a writer that ended up with a YouTube channel, and it makes no sense to me because I was always a writer. I write gardening books, I write gardening articles, I write articles for prepper websites and stuff like that. I just am a writer. I love writing. I write, that's what I do. And then somehow I ended up with a YouTube channel, and people are like, wow, this guy, man, we're like the 144,000 now. We're all chosen to be part of the good gardeners. The good gardeners that will turn the earth into a paradise, right? But my secret is that I'm not actually a writer either. I ended up a writer, but really, in my heart, I'm a bossa nova singer. And that's just... it's just something that you sometimes just got to be your true self. Anyhow, catch y'all later. God bless. Till next time, may your thumbs always be green.